Have you ever felt watched? That prickling sensation at the nape of your neck, the subtle shift in the atmosphere, as if the very act of being observed has altered something fundamental about your existence? Perhaps this intuition runs deeper than we realize. In the sterile confines of a laboratory in Copenhagen nearly a century ago, physicists stumbled upon something that would shatter our understanding of reality. The infamous Double-Slit Experiment revealed that light. And later, all particles of matter exist as both waves and particles simultaneously. But here's where reality fractures. This wave-particle duality collapses into a single state only when measured, only when observed. The implications thundered through scientific communities like a heretical whisper. Consciousness itself might be a fundamental force in the universe. We've been taught that our thoughts are mere electrochemical signals, imprisoned within the bone cage of our skulls. Yet, quantum mechanics suggests something far more profound, that the boundary between mind and matter may be illusory. When physicist John Wheeler proposed his delayed choice experiments, he wasn't just challenging our understanding of time, he was suggesting that reality itself might be participatory. No phenomenon is a real phenomenon until it is an observed phenomenon, he declared. The universe, it seems, requires a witness to manifest. Consider for a moment. What if the world you perceive isn't simply being recorded by your consciousness, but actively shaped by it? What if each thought, each intention, fear, or desire sends ripples through the quantum field that underlies all existence? Ancient traditions, from the Vedic seers to indigenous shamans, have insisted for millennia that mind and matter are intertwined, in ways Western science is only beginning to comprehend. They didn't need particle accelerators to understand that consciousness is the foundation of all reality. They experienced it directly. The division between science and spirituality is a recent wound in human understanding. For most of history, they were unified approaches to the same mystery. Now, as quantum physics pushes against the boundaries of the measurable world, we find ourselves circling back to wisdom that predates our modern instruments by thousands of years. Perhaps the most radical scientific discovery of our age is that the ancients were right all along. The observer cannot be separated from the observed. Your thoughts don't just interpret reality. They participate in its very creation. You and I have never met, yet we are connected in ways that defy classical understanding. The oxygen molecule you just inhaled might contain an atom once breathed by Cleopatra. The electrons in your body respond to forces exerted by stars that died billions of years ago. But quantum entanglement suggests something far more immediate and mysterious. That separation itself might be the ultimate illusion. When two particles become entangled, they remain connected regardless of distance. Change the state of one, and its partner responds instantly. Not in microseconds, not at the speed of light, but with no time delay whatsoever. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance, and rejected it as impossible. Yet experiment after experiment has confirmed that entanglement is real. The universe, at its most fundamental level, appears to be non-local. Information doesn't travel between connected points. It exists at both simultaneously. This phenomenon translates to human experience in ways we're only beginning to understand. Studies on meditation and intention have documented effects that conventional physics cannot explain. When researchers at Princeton University ran the Global Consciousness Project, they found statistical anomalies in random number generators during moments of global attention, as if collective human focus was subtly influencing supposedly random systems. The effect was small, but significant, particularly during events like 9/11s or global celebrations that captured the attention of millions. Critics dismissed it as statistical noise, yet the patterns persisted over decades of data collection. But entanglement runs deeper than laboratory experiments. Think of those moments of inexplicable knowing, when you think of someone seconds before they call, when a mother senses her child in danger across vast distances, when identical twins report feeling each other's physical pain despite being separated by oceans. These experiences, often dismissed as coincidence, take on new significance in a quantum framework. If particles can remain connected across the cosmos, might our consciousnesses also exist within an entangled web? Indigenous knowledge systems have always understood reality as fundamentally interconnected. The Aboriginal concept of dream time, the Buddhist notion of dependent origination, these aren't primitive superstitions, but sophisticated epistemologies that recognized entanglement long before quantum physics gave us the language to describe it. When Thich Nhat Hanh speaks of interbeing, he's articulating what quantum entanglement suggests. Nothing exists in isolation. Everything contains everything else. And here lies the radical implication. If our thoughts exist as physical states in our brains, and if physical states can become entangled, then perhaps our thoughts themselves participate in a vast, interconnected web of consciousness that transcends individual minds. Your single thought might ripple through this quantum web, influencing reality in ways subtle yet profound. This isn't magical thinking. It's what the mathematics of quantum systems implies when applied to the most complex quantum system we know, the human brain. What if the boundaries we perceive between your mind and my mind are as provisional as the boundaries between entangled particles? What if consciousness itself is not produced by the brain, but channeled through it, a fundamental field that our neural architecture taps into rather than creates? This would explain why consciousness remains such a hard problem for materialist science. We've been looking for it in the wrong place. When did you last make a decision that altered the course of your life? Perhaps it was accepting a job, ending a relationship, or moving to a new city. In those pivotal moments, can you feel the ghost lives branching off from yours? The versions of yourself that would exist had you chosen differently? Quantum mechanics suggests these alternate realities aren't merely hypothetical. They might be as real as the one you're experiencing now. Superposition, the quantum principle that particles exist in all possible states simultaneously until observed, has evolved from mathematical abstraction to a cornerstone of modern physics. When Schrödinger proposed his famous cat thought experiment, he was trying to illustrate the absurdity of quantum mechanics applied to macroscopic objects. Yet increasingly, physicists suspect he might have inadvertently described reality accurately. In the many worlds interpretation, reality continuously branches into countless parallel universes, each representing a different outcome of quantum events. But here's where science begins to echo mysticism. What if consciousness itself exists in superposition? What if the mind operates not just within the constraints of a single timeline, but across the quantum multiverse? Consider the phenomenon of intuition. Those inexplicable moments when you just know something without logical reasoning. Perhaps intuition isn't supernatural but transtemporal. Your consciousness receiving echoes from parallel versions of yourself, who made different choices and experienced their consequences. The Tibetan Buddhist practice of Dzogchen describes consciousness as fundamentally empty, not in the nihilistic sense, but in the sense of being without inherent limitation, a field of pure potential from which all experiences arise. When quantum physicists describe the wave function as containing all possibilities until collapse, they're using different language to describe what contemplatives have experienced directly. Through centuries of meditation practice, that reality exists primarily as potential until actualized through attention. Modern psychological research on neuroplasticity demonstrates how profoundly our thoughts reshape our brains. When you cultivate certain mental states, compassion, gratitude, creativity, you're not just experiencing ephemeral emotions. You're physically rewiring neural pathways. Your thoughts, literally, change your brain. But quantum biology suggests the influence may extend further. The discovery of quantum coherence in biological systems, like photosynthesis and bird navigation, hints that quantum effects may be operating within your cellular machinery, perhaps even in the microtubules of your neurons. As physicist Roger Penrose and anesthesiologist Stuart Hameroff have proposed, imagine the implications. Every thought, every intention, may be selecting and collapsing quantum probabilities, not just in your brain, but in the fabric of reality itself. Ancient spiritual traditions conceptualize this as creating your reality through focused attention and intention. The Hawaiian Huna tradition calls it makia. Energy flows where attention goes. Quantum physics offers a mechanism by which this might literally be true. We stand now at the confluence of empirical science and experiential wisdom, where the observer paradox of quantum mechanics meets the transformative potential of conscious intention. The question is no longer whether thoughts influence reality, but how profoundly, and how we might harness this understanding. If consciousness collapses wave functions into particle realities, then perhaps the most powerful technology for shaping our world has been with us all along: the directed focus of the awakened mind. Listen closely. Beyond the cacophony of daily life, beneath the endless chatter of your conscious mind, something extraordinary is happening. Trillions of cells, quadrillions of molecules, and uncountable atoms are dancing in exquisite harmony to maintain the phenomenon you call you. The miracle isn't just that this complexity exists, it's that it coheres into a single, unified experience of selfhood. How does matter orchestrate itself into mind? Quantum coherence offers a tantalizing clue. In quantum systems, particles can synchronize their quantum states, behaving as a single entity rather than separate components. This coherence was long thought impossible. In the warm, wet environment of living cells, quantum effects were assumed to be drowned out by thermal noise. Yet research has revealed quantum coherence in photosynthesis, in bird navigation, and potentially in the neural microtubules that form the cytoskeleton of your brain cells. These structures may serve as quantum processors, generating the symphonic complexity of consciousness through massive parallel quantum computation. When you enter deep meditation or flow states, electroencephalography shows your brain waves synchronizing across regions, displaying what neuroscientists call phase coherence. From the perspective of quantum biology, you're not merely changing your thinking, you're reorganizing the quantum information processing of your entire neural network. Hindu yogic traditions describe Kundalini awakening as energy rising through chakras, culminating in expanded consciousness. Modern neuroscience might reframe this as increasing quantum coherence in neural systems, enabling more unified and comprehensive information processing. The implications stretch beyond individual experience. Quantum field theory suggests that all particles are excitations in underlying quantum fields that extend throughout space-time. If consciousness emerges from quantum processes in the brain, and these processes are fundamentally connected to universal quantum fields, then consciousness itself may not be contained within your skull. Your thoughts may be local patterns in a non-local field, like waves on an ocean, distinct yet inseparable from the whole. This reframes ancient mystical claims about universal consciousness. When Sufi mystics speak of unity with the divine, when Hindu Vedantists declare, Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman, when Zen masters point to original mind, perhaps they're describing direct experience of this fundamental quantum coherence. The boundaries between your consciousness and the universe may be more permeable than conventional science has recognized. Laboratory studies on mind-matter interaction have produced small but statistically significant effects that defy conventional explanation. Experiments at Princeton Engineering Anomalies Research Lab documented subjects influencing random event generators through intention alone. Research on distant healing intention shows effects that persist across space and time. While mainstream science remains skeptical, These anomalies suggest consciousness may interact with physical reality in ways quantum mechanics might eventually explain. The most profound implication? Your coherent intention, your focused, unified thought, may create ripples of coherence. In the quantum fields that underlie physical reality, this isn't manifesting material objects through wishful thinking. It's subtly influencing probability fields, making certain outcomes more likely than others. The effect of any single thought may be infinitesimal, but patterns of thought repeated over time could significantly shape your experienced reality. Consider how differently you might live if you understood your consciousness not as a passive observer, but as an active participant in reality's unfolding. If you recognize that each thought contributes to the quantum coherence or decoherence of the world you inhabit. What if the most significant technology for creating the future isn't artificial intelligence or genetic engineering, but the coherent intention of billions of awakened minds operating in quantum resonance with the fundamental fields of existence? Dawn breaks. You wake, and in that liminal space between dreaming and waking, you exist briefly in pure potential. Who will you be today? What reality will you step into? For a moment, before habitual thoughts crystallize your identity, you hover in quantum indeterminacy, all possible versions of yourself, superimposed in consciousness. This isn't poetic metaphor. It may be the most accurate description of your moment-to-moment existence. The theoretical framework we've explored, quantum observation, entanglement, superposition, and coherence, converges on a revolutionary proposition. Consciousness doesn't just perceive reality, it participates in its creation. But how do we translate this understanding? From intellectual fascination to lived experience? How do we consciously engage with the quantum nature of mind? Ancient contemplative traditions developed sophisticated methodologies for precisely this purpose. When Buddhist practitioners cultivate mindfulness, they're learning to observe the quantum collapse of potential into actuality in real time. When Taoist adepts speak of Wu Wei, they're describing alignment with quantum probability flows, rather than forcing outcomes through willpower alone. These aren't prescientific attempts at psychology. They're refined technologies for navigating the quantum nature of consciousness. Modern protocols for harnessing these principles exist at the intersection of neuroscience and contemplative practice. Systematic meditation demonstrably alters brain connectivity patterns, enhancing coherence across neural networks. Biofeedback training enables conscious regulation of autonomic functions previously considered involuntary. Hypnotic suggestion can amplify healing responses that operate at the cellular level. Each approach demonstrates how directed consciousness can reshape physical reality, beginning with the quantum processes in your own body, but the potential extends beyond personal well-being. Preliminary research on collective meditation suggests that groups focusing coherent intention may influence shared reality fields. Studies during the International Peace Project in the Middle East documented that when sufficient numbers practiced transcendental meditation together, crime rates, emergency room visits, and conflict measures decreased significantly in surrounding areas. The statistical correlations persisted even when controlling for other variables. While conventional science struggles to explain such effects, quantum field theories of consciousness offer potential mechanisms through field resonance and non-local influence. The ethical implications are profound. If your thoughts literally shape the probability landscape of reality, what responsibility do you bear for their quality and direction? Ancient wisdom traditions unanimously emphasized thought discipline, not as moral restriction but as creative stewardship. All that we are arises with our thoughts, taught the Buddha. With our thoughts, we make the world. Quantum understanding gives new dimension to these teachings. Imagine a global civilization that understood consciousness as a fundamental creative force, where education included training in quantum coherence of mind, where collective intention was consciously directed toward regenerative outcomes, where the entanglement of all beings was recognized, not as mystical belief, but as scientific reality. We stand at a bifurcation point, where such understanding could transform our relationship with ourselves, each other, and the living systems we inhabit. The most radical insight may be this: you cannot observe quantum reality without participating in it. The moment you attempt to witness the quantum nature of consciousness, you alter the system through your observation. Unlike Newtonian physics, where objective observation seemed possible, quantum understanding places you squarely within the phenomenon. You're attempting to comprehend. There is no external vantage point. You cannot step outside the quantum mind to examine it objectively, because you are the quantum mind, in its self-reflective mode. This completes the circle, returning us to Wheeler's participatory universe. The cosmos requires observers to manifest from potential to actuality, yet those observers themselves emerge from the cosmos. Consciousness gives rise to physical reality through observation, yet consciousness emerges from physical systems, complex enough to support it. Like the ancient symbol of the Ouroboros, the serpent consuming its own tail, quantum mind reveals reality as fundamentally self-referential, a knowing that knows itself, through seemingly separate viewpoints that are ultimately unified. In this understanding, science and spirituality aren't opposing approaches, but complementary perspectives on the same self-organizing mystery. The mathematics of quantum mechanics and the experiential wisdom of contemplative traditions converge on a singular recognition. Reality emerges through relationship. There is no observer separate from the observed. Your thoughts don't just interpret the world, they participate in its becoming. Every moment of awareness is a creative act. At the quantum edge of possibility,